Greetings, I'm Solidus-Skully, and welcome back to Final Fantasy II. So yeah, a little bit melancholy, as the overall themers of want to present to us with, sadly, we lost Joseph. That poor man who was destined to die the moment he said he was gonna help out the heroes and, well, pretty much had his daughter say, "Come home soon, father, and live a long and prosperous life." But yeah, I mean, all seriousness aside though, like, I mean, again, it's these rather small losses that do kind of gradually build up and really sort of contribute to the very depressing atmosphere of Final Fantasy II. I mean, again, like, I mean, you know, if we're desperately fighting this war, but, you know, our fourth party member slot, they just keep on dying. And dying. Do we have them? Why does everything we touch turn to dust? But yeah, return to the village and everybody is pretty much there to mourn Joseph's death and, yeah, continuing little slight subplot with that woman outside of Joseph's house going, "Oh, Joseph, I love you, but I can't confess." Well, again, as we're going to be seeing in a wee bit, as we're, you know, we talk to Nelly and, you know, that pretty much being that, yeah, it seems poor old Joseph is, you know, going to have that woman take care of his daughter and, well, that's pretty much the end of it, really, so, yeah, good on you, lass. Although, unfortunately, poor Nelly, she's lost her father and now pretty much grows up without a daddy or a mother. Yeah, it's, I mean, not to take away from the, you know, from the seriousness of parental loss or anything, but I mean, yeah, poor kid. Although, I mean, to shed some light on what becomes of Nelly, I can't remember whether or not it is actually in the game itself, or perhaps something that's, you know, Souls of Rebirth, later elaborates on, but yeah, Nelly eventually does, you know, end up getting a job working in Castle Finn later on, so yeah, you know, she's a hard-working little lady, and yeah, she's making her father proud. But yeah, I mean, to kind of talk about it in and of itself as to what Soul of Rebirth actually is, I think I might have mentioned it offhandedly before, but yeah, it's basically a bit of an, well, you know, more senses of the word than one, basically like, you know, a post-game, you know, playthrough where you get to play as Prince Scott and, you know, Joseph, and a few other characters here and there that we'll be meeting throughout our journey, and, yeah, you get to see what they're getting up to in the afterlife. Why exactly am I talking about the afterlife? Well, because despite the fact that, you know, the prologue of the game mentioned the underworld, yeah, in the Japanese version, they pretty much make no bones about it, and, yeah, the Empire basically summoned demons from hell to pad out the ranks of their army, hence why there are monsters bopping about, and in turn why, I guess as the PS1 intro illustrated, you know, there's a whole bunch of demonic soldiers working for the Emperor, so yes indeedy, this game gets a little bit more, well, dangerous, which, well, I mean, as we are heading towards, you know, Kashuan Keep, fuck, I forgot what I was gonna say, Technomine. Shit, I completely forgot what I was gonna say, damn it! Waste, I'll get back to it eventually. God, I hate when my memory fucking shorts out like that. In any case, so you might have noticed that little small meadow just, you know, behind the zombies that we were attacking. But, yeah. Sorry, my brain just kind of got a wee bit fucking kerfuffled because I got stuck between talking points, but, in any case, though, yeah, as we get around to this little area right here, slight escalation and challenge, although, you know, nothing too bad, depending on whether or not you stray into specific areas, but, yeah, just, basic zombies. As mentioned beforehand, use healing magic, use fire, or, yeah, those are pretty much your two go-to items, and, they pretty much take down zombies instantly. Or again, you can just power Maria up with, you know, the Berserk stat buff, which pretty much increases your attack power. And there you go. But what is this? Oh, a jovial theme. And we have the introduction to a Final Fantasy mainstay in this game, the Chocobo. Basically, a giant chicken, and that, yeah, pretty much allows you to walk around the hub world pretty much unimpeded by enemy encounters and, yeah, make your way across the hub world pretty fast. I mean, part of its function is kind of mitigated by the encounters on, encounters off thing of the Pixel remaster, but, I mean, all the same though, you get a jaunty little tune that's a bit of a reprieve from all the depression and death, and yeah, again, wherever there is land and wherever you're able to travel, you can take this little Chocobo companion wherever you want to, but be forewarned, because in similar nature to the airship, with the, you know, Sid or whatever, yeah, by the time you have the Chocobo drop you off someplace, you're pretty much left to your own devices, so, yeah, you don't really get to, you know, hop on and off, really. But yeah, apart from that though, it's jaunty, and it also has an adorable theme, so, good old Chocobo. Final Fantasy staple, and, I don't know. I'm just jaunting to the theme. But yeah, I mean, if there is anything I can actually say about, the Chocobo, I did have some trivia about this, but I don't know if we'll have time to expunge it before we get moving on with the plot. Yeah, you know, we'll be riding the Chocobo next time, so we'll save it for them, because in the meantime, we have, Kashuan Keep to, get ourselves involved in, and, yeah. Now, I don't know whether this is implied to, well, again, I'm guessing that this is probably part of the Kingdom of Kashuan. Its castle is likely already fallen at this stage. Again, I'm not too sure whether this is the castle, and it has been long since overtaken by, you know, monsters and, the Emperor's forces, you know, as we're seeing right here. Or if it's also meant to imply that, you know, there was a kingdom that was ruled over by, you know, Gordon and Scott, but, you know, it's just been completely wiped off the map, so, I mean, I'm going to assume, it's gonna be I'm gonna assume it's probably the former, since, you know, again, Gordon talks about, you know, rumors of seeing, you know, where Eagle's torch is being guarded by, you know, a den of monsters or whatever. Oh shit. Spoiler alert, yeah, guess what character we're gonna be meeting right here, although then again, you can probably guess for yourself, since, Meanwoo mentioned not having seen Gordon in a while. And again, we need the goddess's bell to enter the Kashuan Keep, but likewise, well, yeah, it also opens to the voice of a person from Kashuan, hence why Prince Gordon is likely here, as you'll be seeing in a little bit. I do apologize for spoiling that, but I gotta say, it's just about a minute ahead, so, yeah. Fuck. My goddamn brain has completely fucked me over today, and I'm angry. I hate my brain, I hate it! Goddamn functional frontal lobes, giving me, you know, movement, neural connections, advanced levels of thinking. In any case though, we've opened the path and now we can meet Gordon himself. Acquist. I came to retrieve the Sunfire. I thought I was the only one left who could open the door. I'd meant to look for Eagle's torch, but it's a monster's den in here. I can't keep going on my own, and I can't return empty-handed. I don't know what to do next. You know your way around the keep, right? Do you think you could help us find our way through? I'm sorry. The keep is riddled with secrets. I wouldn't know my way around any better than you. But I do want to fight. Will you let me come with you? There we go, and now we have Gordon joining our party. And the party's getting started now, the Gordon's here, dude! By the way, in terms of the novelization, actually, I recall reading a passage where, like, actually, I'm not really too sure, because, I mean, Maria's the only one who really seems to want Gordon on board, so I remember reading some fan theories that Firion was sort of disgusted with Gordon's cowardly behavior, but I don't know if they're just sort of referring to something from the novelization, as I mentioned before, or if it's maybe something that they interpret as silence differently. I don't know, just a weird little quirk of writing, I suppose. In any case, so, yeah, the Kashuan Keep is pretty much our next dungeon. It's a lot more straightforward than, you know, the snow caverns and, well, indeed, you know, the mines that we met in Cement Falls, so... Yeah, I mean, I don't really have too many complaints with this dungeon, apart from, you know, some of the aforementioned ambush closets, as I'm pretty much gonna call them now, where you pretty much go into a room, and then they go, fooled you, and then you pretty much have an enemy encounter, and then you get very sad. And it pretty much just fucks up your day, but in any case, so now that we have Gordon as a member of our party for the time being, well, now he finally goes from, you know, cowardly puss to, well, you know, the brave king that he was always meant to be. But yeah, I mean, this is also, you know, sort of meant to imply that, you know, Well, I mean, at least to some extent, like, I mean, there's also meant to sort of imply, and especially as we go on later on in the game, that he does have, like, a bit of a thing for Princess Hilda. You know, hence why he was a little bit hesitant to... Well, I mean, I guess both hesitant to be a bit of a rebound boyfriend, you know, in the sense that, you know, there was also something brewing between her and, you know, his brother Scott. But, I mean, I don't know, I guess it could also be, like, a political marriage for the sake of, you know, aligning themselves against, you know, the Empire. I'm not really too sure what was really the case here, because, I mean, the implication seems to be that the Kingdom of Kashuan had fallen, and therefore, in order to, you know, properly strengthen themselves against the Empire, you know, before the Kingdom of Finn itself fell at the beginning of the game, that, you know, either Gordon or Scott was gonna, you know, get hitched in a political marriage with Hilda, so that they could join forces, you know, stop the Emperor and, you know, pretty much do whatever political kings and monarchs are of want to do. But I mean, either way, the closest thing you get to a canonical romantic kind of thing in this game, well, I mean, apart from a little scene involving Firion a bit later on in the game, is that, you know, Gordon and Hilda, they're going to make babies! And if you want to connect Final Fantasy IV to 2, then the whole kingdom's changed name or whatever to cement Cecil, Harvey, and Kane Highwind as doing a thing or whatever. Why am I making these connections? I have no idea. But either way, we're exploring the Kashuan Keep to get the Eagle's Torch, collect the Sunfire, and thus we have a means of destroying the Dreadnought. But yeah, as we continue to fight more of the creatures of hell, yeah. There is also another, you know, to delve back into theoretical territory. I'm not really sure whether this is fan theory or just something that was meant to differentiate, you know, Firion, Maria, Guy, and, you know, the rotating fourth party member slot compared to, you know, a lot of other Final Fantasy characters, but, yeah, why exactly the level up system is different in this game compared to other games, you know, from the Final Fantasy 1, you know, 3 and onwards sort of ilk, is that, yeah, in typical Final Fantasy, like, particularly in the likes of, you know, the Warriors of Light, or, well, I mean, I guess to use the Final Fantasy 5 and the Onion Knights from Final Fantasy 3 as a bit of an example, is that, yeah, whenever, you know, because those games usually tend to revolve around going after, you know, the crystals or whatever, yeah, because of the fact that, you know, the crystals usually tend to teach them, like, sort of instant spells, instant jobs and class systems. Yeah, that's part of the reason why they're able to master these spells almost immediately, whereas, you know, Firion, Maria and Guy and everybody else pretty much have to, you know, gradually learn them from scratch. And I suppose this does also delve into the fact that, you know, the job system of Final Fantasy 3 and 5 pretty much gets characters to specialize, so that's why they gradually get a little bit more, you know, experience with those sort of spells compared to 2, where you have to, well, learn by doing, for lack of a better phrase. I don't know, I mean, it is an interesting way of sort of explaining it, but then again, I suppose it's also a factor of, Well, I mean, again, each game isn't necessarily connected, but, I don't know, there is a bit of a weird sort of thing, really, like, I think it sort of depends on how you take your Final Fantasy, really. Like, I mean, some kind of consider it like a different universe, others sort of think that it takes place on, like, different planets, or, like, takes place, like, you know, thousands of years apart for, you know, the locales and geography to sort of shift and change or whatever, but have reoccurring wildlife like Moogles or Chocobos, so... I mean, I don't know, I mean, it's entirely possible that Final Fantasy 2 takes place after 1, just, you know, thousands of years after the fact, or, you know, whatever else. But, yeah, who knows, really. I mean, there are, again, I sort of mentioned this before with, you know, the Final Fantasy 7 to 10 connection, that there is some sort of, like, vague connection, because, and I say this specifically because, I mean, Final Fantasy X-2 did go out of its way to, you know, create an ancestor for, you know, one of the old bad members being, you know, called Shinra, going, the far plane, and a source of energy, I wonder if we can do that, and, you know, that's sort of connecting to the whole life stream and, Mako energy reactors of Final Fantasy VII, which, does that kind of make, like, Final Fantasy VII and, you know, the whole life stream thing something related to the far plane from 10? I'm not really too sure. I don't think these games were ever designed to be explicitly connected, as was, you know, the dividing factor stated as far back as, you know, Final Fantasy 1 and 2 had previously stated, but... I don't know, I mean, it is interesting to think about how some elements connect, again, I don't know, it could be just sort of like myths and legends sort of completely conflating with each other, or just familiar names cropping up, because, again, I remember in one of Final Fantasy VIII's, you know, backstories in regards to the Sorceress and, you know, the god Hein. Yeah, there was also a location called Hein in Final Fantasy 3, And, you know, in turn we have X-Death of Final Fantasy V basically being, well, to kind of put it in blunt terms, a tree who also has monsters within him with, you know, all criminals and basically, well, evil spirits plus tree taking over the void and thus potentially creating a bit of a myth around it that dozens of years later in Final Fantasy VIII creates a myth kind of thing related to God or whatever. Again, I don't know. It's obviously not meant to connect, but I mean, it is sort of fun to think about and sort of ratchet around a bizarro headcanon. I mean, in some way or another. It doesn't really work, but at the same time, it is also fun to, you know... It's more fun in a bit of a mental gymnastics kind of way, and, well, goodness gracious me, when it comes to, you know, life and the internet in general, there's no shortage of, gold medals being awarded for mental gymnastics, because people are pretty fucking good at that, if it suits them. But in any case, it's also around the Kashuan Keep where we start seeing some more of the undead enemies, like the were-rat. I don't know if they really inflict anything dangerous. I think, you know, our vitality and, actually no, it wouldn't be vitality, it'd be constitution, I think. Yeah, it's pretty up to snuff, so we don't exactly have to worry about, a lot of status ailments, really. I mean, again, you still have to in some aspects, because, I mean, even at this point in the game, I do still occasionally have, you know, particularly the fourth party member slot with, Gordon being the weakest link, usually getting, like, poisoned, stunned, or whatever else, but, yeah, I mean, our resistance against, like, enemy magic, you know, status ailments and stuff like that is pretty good. And again, there are, you know, items you can equip to your character to sort of, you know, reduce damage. You know, typical Final Fantasy fare usually has the ribbon, you know, item that you can attach to your character. That, again, doesn't exactly give you a big defense buff, but does, you know, prevent you from getting poisoned, you know, stabbed. I mean, the ribbon is basically, again, despite being frilly and girly, is pretty much your one-stop shop for preventing yourself from... you know, being the jack of all trades, no status ailments for you, buddy. So yeah, how exactly does a ribbon defend against all that? Fuck knows. Maybe it's magically enchanted. But either way, it's pretty much something you want to go after for the sake of, you know, making sure that, you know, you don't let those status ailments pile on, because, you know, I mean, when it comes to, you know... Again, it sounds incredibly nerdy when you sort of talk about it, it's like, oh my god, like, I have poison resistance and I'm a level 63 paladin with melee ability. But again, when you do have, you know, enemies casting things like, okay, you've got poison status, okay, now you've got, the slow, and now you've got, you know, fucking, you know, what was it called again? I'm trying to think of a, okay, now you've got a curse ability on you, which pretty much halves your health and damage. Oh no, now you've got the blind status on, you know, that shit does pile up, so I mean, eventually you'll be missing your shots, you know, poison will be draining your health, you know, your accuracy goes down, you're a lot, more sluggish in combat, and, yeah. That shit does build up, but then again, vice versa, if you equip your spellcasters, I mean, in this case, particularly Guy and Firion with, you know, status ailments and abilities like, you know, time stop and, you know, a lot of the abilities that you've pretty much been seeing, you know, Guy cast upon the characters, you know, Berserk, you know, Osmos, things like that, you know, it does eventually build up, and eventually you can cast status elements on the enemies, and, yeah, people go down pretty quick smart. But, I mean, I guess even in that case, though, and again, this is also tying back into me trying to make battles as interesting as I can, I am trying to varietize my abilities, but at the same time, I also don't want to be completely overleveled, and, I mean, at the very least in terms of boss fights, really, like, I mean, some boss fights, particularly in the likes of, you know, Borkin or whatever, I'm not really too concerned about, but there are some later on in the game where I don't want to end the fight too quickly. I want to, you know, show what the enemies can do and, you know, see what they can cast or whatever, but... yeah, at the same time, I unfortunately might be a little bit too prepared for the game, and, you know, as such, you know, because of the fact that I'm trying my best to sort of prepare for the encounters ahead, they might not reflect, you know, your first experience if you're just going through the game at a steady pace. But in any case, though, to talk about upcoming enemies, yeah, these blue variants of the balloon enemies, these are the mines. I think they're pretty much the tier above grenade but below bomb enemies, which is... I want to say the most powerful variant, but I might be wrong on that. There might be some more, but don't quote me on that. But yeah, sap away their MP, and they can't use the self-destruct ability. Or I think they might be able to, because I don't think... oh no, wait. I was right! But yeah, I mean, if you want to take out these enemies pretty quick smart, again, fire helps. After all, ignite the bomb and explode them before they explode you. And as for anything else, really... not too much. There we go. Cool down, mine dude! But yeah, to protect from physical damage, use Protect. I thought I had more to say there, but I didn't. All I had was a bit of a... Well, I mean, then again, there are protective spells, so, again, I mean, the love so wacky joke I was thinking about is, like, are there any magical spells for contraceptives in this universe? Like, I mean, again, we are, you know, currently dealing with, like, pseudo-medieval, slightly... Well, I wouldn't say completely steampunk, but, I mean, somewhat industrial technology mixed in with a bit of a medieval setting, so, yeah, I mean, I don't think condoms technically exist, so... Yeah, are there any magical contraceptives in this universe? I mean, again, if so, then, well, then again, I suppose given the time, like, you know, people are born easily and they also die easily, so, yeah. I don't know. I'm just sort of thinking in terms of, like, very sort of medieval birth rates, because, I mean, again, this was still very much an era where, you know, people threw stones at their own shadow and died of old age and fear at 24, so, yeah, not exactly very long to live. And, well, not very long until you die. The end is in sight, my friends. But yeah, I think we've faced enough monsters, and now we might as well fight the main monster. That is, yeah, that little creature right over there. Oh. I'd heard that there was a monster guarding Eagle's torch. Now I've seen it with my own eyes. It's a red soul! So, ladies and dudes, as Gordon introduced us, this is the Red Soul. The Red Soul is pretty much a magic caster, so again, as you're going to be seeing right here, again, attempt to use magic on it, and, well, yeah, I believe again, in the effort to use Sap as, you know, a guy, it pretty much uses his ability against him, so, yeah, it saps away your MP. At least I think so. Hang on, I have to... So yeah, it's, yeah, that pretty much heals it. I thought it did take away MP, but I might be thinking of, another, you know, another encounter later on where, yeah, spoiler alert, the Red Soul isn't the most powerful variant, but, yeah, attempt to use magic on it and it pretty much absorbs it and adds it to its MP/health. So, yeah, these status effects aren't really working, so the best thing to use against the Red Soul is, physical attacks. So again, utilizing Maria and Gordon is pretty much your best bet in this battle. Or, you know, using Firion's fist, I suppose, so yeah, that's always an option as well. But as for anything else though, yeah, the Red Soul casts all manner of magic and that's pretty much all it does, so yeah, it's a giant death spirit, but it's also a giant nerd. So that's why Maria beat the shit out of it. And at long last, we finally have Eagle's Torch. Now, rather than travelling all the way back to the first floor, we are teleporting. And, yeah, after healing up, because, yeah, when you use teleport to get out of a dungeon or a battle... Well, actually, no, yeah, word of warning, because I did actually do this while I was grinding, do not use teleport on yourself in a battle, because you will die, and that is, no bueno. But yeah, when you teleport out of a dungeon, make sure that you heal up, you know, the caster almost immediately, because... It pretty much utilized all their health to do so, which is, kind of fucked to be perfectly honest. But anyway, we got the Sunfire from Eagle's Torch, and, that should pretty much be us for this session. So yeah, one skipped battle later, and what is this?